Hello, I'm Dave Feinleib, and this is Beyond the Shelf. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. You can join our mailing list and learn more about how to build great content at scale at itsrapid.ai. My guest on today's show is Pam Perino, e-commerce content operations and development manager at Ghirardelli Chocolate. Pam joined Ghirardelli after a career in the fashion space with Claiborne, DKNY Jeans, and Perry Ellis. We discuss Pam's journey to Ghirardelli, her innovative e-commerce content marketing strategies, including a discussion of a unique micro-seasons approach, and how Pam engages all stakeholders, both internal and external, to develop buy-in and build momentum for marketing success across the entire organization. Please enjoy my conversation with Pam Perino. Pam, great to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thanks for having me, Dave.
I would love to start with your background. I know we're going to talk about digital commerce in a little bit, but take us back to the early days. Where did you start, and how did you land at Ghirardelli?
I can go back a long ways, Dave, but I'll take you back a bit. So, the most of my career has actually been in the fashion industry. I started working for Macy's out of college and went into their executive training program and was in the buying offices and management with them for a while, and then I started on the wholesale side, and I worked for several large fashion companies. I worked for Claiborne on the menswear side, DKNY Jeans, and more recently for Perry Ellis International. So, and the majority of my background with those companies was really managing field teams, merchandising teams that go out to the stores and make sure the product's set up correctly merchandised, and educating the stores and working with consumers and all kinds of things, and making sure that the right assortments were there, and a lot of communication back and forth between stores and the buying offices and things like that. And how I got onto the e-commerce kind of piece was in the last couple of years I was with Perry Ellis. We had started to work with a PIM, Salsify, which I know you're familiar with, and they started using that. And we were trying to leverage our team's experience with visual, training and expertise, and like how do we bring that to a website? How do we take how we look at a sales floor, a department, and look at how it's being merchandised? What are we presenting to the customers? What information are we providing? I was leading a team where we were looking at our retailer websites and evaluating them and looking for opportunities on how to better present our products on their websites. And so when I started working with Salsify, it was to help support the information that we were providing to the retailers, images, marketing copy, things like that. And I was helping support that project. And then an opportunity opened up with Ghirardelli Chocolate Company, which I've been with for a little over 3.5 years. And they, I think, had seen my experience with Salsify, and that's kind of what led them to me, I believe. And so I started working with them, and this is my first experience with CPG, so to speak, as we know it. And I absolutely love it. It's been wonderful, and of course, who doesn't love chocolate? Chocolate makes everybody happy.
Exactly. Who does not love the product? I
Exactly.
know we do. So,
Absolutely. So yeah, and that's kind of how it started. And I was hired as their first e-commerce content manager, managing our content development for our e-commerce partners, our retail partners, as well as managing the syndication piece and working with Salsify and to get the content out to our retailers. So it's kind of a two-folded side of of a position. I work on both sides.
I love it. So, connecting with the consumer
Yes,
is a big part of it. And also, it sounds like connecting these various teams internally.
very much so. It's an extremely cross-functional role, and that's probably some of the experience and background that I brought from my previous companies and roles, because the roles I was in is, managing field teams across the country. We were working very cross functionally with design teams and sales teams and merchandising teams. And it's really the same way here too. I work very close with our brand marketing teams, our creative teams, customer marketing, sales, regulatory, all of those different parts of the organization and more. So it's very much a cross functional role, and you need to be able to be, excel in your communication and follow through and follow up. It's a very detail oriented type of position, and there's a lot of moving parts at any one time. I think that's, kind of a skill set that I brought into the role and continue to, I think, hone over the last few years or so.
I was watching a video to your point about all the different teams that
Mhm.
had some voice and commentary from folks at Ghirardelli talking about how Ghirardelli very much feels like a family organization. Of course, we know it as this global, huge chocolate brand.
Right.
It seems like you're everywhere. But share a little bit about that. What is that? You have all these different teams, and yet you still have this family feel that's very unique.
I think that comes a lot from management, to be honest with you, from the top down, from our CEO down to, the leadership team and beyond. And I think that's always something I felt from the very beginning. People are very welcoming, and that's part of, I think, our company culture and what we try to get across. I think even in our marketing, very welcoming and vibrant, and that too. And we're a large company, but within a big, huge, multinational corporation, being part of Linton Sprungley International. So, which is a huge, everybody's very familiar, I'm sure, with Linton Sprungley, but, Ghirardelli is part of that family. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, I think, very much a company culture as well, and really starts up at the top. That's how I feel, and how I still feel to this day. And it's wonderful. It's really great culture, probably the best as far as any I've ever experienced before.
The other piece you touched on in your intro there was the shift from fashion to
Hmm.
going to chocolate. And as we talked about, who doesn't love chocolate? But there are some, I imagine, similarities and differences in how you connect with the consumer and how you structure content, how you think about the strategy. And so what are some of those, or what are some of the learnings that you brought with you, I guess, from from those other roles?
I think, putting yourself in the consumer's shoes when you're looking at a product online, or even in store, what information is going to entice the customer? What do they want to learn? What are the baseline information, practical information? What's in the product? How is it presented? Of course, you want something that's visually appealing, and of course, in regards to working for a company that makes chocolate, something that's going to taste wonderful too. So, how do we get that across in our marketing copy, as well as in images, whether it's images that are on the actual package or images that we provide, to the consumer online in a carousel set or a below the fold, showing customers, enjoying the product, how to use it, occasion, things like that. And I think that it's of course it's a little bit different than the fashion industry, but again, it's like, how are people going to use the product? Why are they shopping for that particular product today? And so those are the kind of things I think you kind of think about when you're putting together content, and what's relevant, what are top of mind things. Right now, a lot of, I think, things that are important that people are looking for, there are better for you products too, perhaps things that have less calories or reduced sugar and things like that. And we've definitely, had some newer products in the last year or two, specifically in our baking products, where we've introduced products that have perhaps less sugar, that kind of thing. And that's definitely appealing to a lot of consumers out there as well, too.
It's great. So better for you, staying in touch with the consumer needs and trends and demands. And then I think the other thing I've noticed is you've really pioneered some of the content. You have the packaging that you talked about, but also the different formats for communicating with the shopper.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's an ever evolving journey. You can't set it and forget it, as I always like to say. You get done with one thing, and then you're going to probably start back at the beginning of that one project. So, um, we're always looking at ways to continually evolve and do things better. And right now we're working on looking at improving our mobile optimized hero images. How can we provide better information, clearer, faster for the consumer? So many people are shopping on their phones. Yes, people are still of course shopping in stores. They're shopping on their computers or tablets, but most people at some point are on their phones, whether they're actually in the store and kind of
Hmm.
double looking. They're looking at their phones and then going into the store and perhaps picking up or buying directly from their phone. So how do we create content that's accessible and easy to use and read and see and understand what the product's all about and communicate all of those important things to them? And so we've definitely incorporated more information using videos, which we're working with your company on, which is great, and being able to provide more videos for our products online. I also too, the whole AI thing is really exploded, as everybody is very well aware. It's been everywhere in the last year, maybe under that at this point. It's really taken off. So we're definitely exploring ways to use AI in our content development and creation and tools and how to make us better. And again, providing, being able to do images and marketing copy faster, better, quicker, and really kind of help elevate our content and continually evolve it as well.
So, video, certainly, lots of images, different types of content, AI, which is extremely popular and of the topic right now. So, very relevant. And another thing you shared with me is this idea of seasonality and micro seasons.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really unique concept. Tell us a little about that. How does that tie in with some of these different content initiatives?
A lot of it started too, I think, when we were really kind of developing our marketing copy and taking it from more basic marketing copy, evergreen, but really looking at SEO and how to implement search engine optimization into our marketing copy and having not only great evergreen copy and making sure that we're surfacing words that are specific to retailers or just overall for our category, but really trying to make sure that those words are there. So when the customer is shopping online on a particular retailer or even just searching on a search engine like Google or whatever, that if they're putting in a word like chocolate or baking chips, that we're having those words in our marketing copy. So hopefully the Ghirardelli products will rise to the top, so to speak, and the customer can see that that might be a great option for them. The seasonality piece kind of came in after that, and we wanted to make sure that as customers were thinking about different times of the year and gifting or during the holidays baking, things like that, that we wanted to make sure that we were updating our marketing copy to, again, put in search engine optimized words that were relevant to that particular season or the season. So we started off with providing for our core assortment Christmas optimized copy, Valentine's Day, and Easter. And this year we're continuing to evolve that and looking again for, as I say, more of those micro seasons like Mother's Day, which is a big gifting opportunity, and chocolate is definitely probably one of the top category gifts during the Mother's Day timeframe. Same thing around Halloween, and thinking about how people buy chocolate and candy for Halloween, whether it's parties or trick or treating, things like that. Also looking at summer and s'mores. Ghirardelli chocolate squares are perfect to make a s'more. If you have never made a s'more with a Ghirardelli square, you're missing out. They're perfectly shaped and perfectly sized for your graham crackers, and we have fabulous flavors, and you can make all kinds of fun, creative ones. So things like that, where we're really trying to help the customer in their journey as they're shopping and making sure that we're providing creative, fun ideas for them, not only for gift giving opportunities, but also for perhaps baking or, in the case of like summertime, you're barbecuing, you're doing a cookout, you're, going camping, and s'mores are part of many people's summertime activities.
So much so. Definitely part of our family summertime activities. So we've got some big big fans over here. You mentioned that Ghirardelli's, you've got kind of a fun feel to the brand. How do you maintain that approachability and the fun part of the brand, and how do you communicate that to the consumer?
I think that goes back to really, our brand marketing team and working very closely with them. We have an extremely talented brand marketing team made up of amazing people with an eye ahead and over the horizon on how to do things, better and faster, and really making sure that we're incorporating our brand guidelines and our brand tonality and how we want to have our chocolate, appear to the customer online, and making sure that I work very closely with them, and that's a big part of it, is making sure that I work very closely with our marketing team and their guidelines, and and how we want to describe our chocolate, the words that we want to use, the way we describe our caramel or our dark, beautifully intense dark chocolate, things like that, our flavors. We definitely brand marketing works, very closely with our research and development group and regulatory too as well, to make sure that we're coloring within the lines, but also making sure that we're really describing our flavors, and things like that to the best that we can, and making them very appealing, I think.
This idea of the all these different parts of the organization, I'm sure this is something that a lot of folks at various organizations would love to be doing better, would love to see teams working really closely together. What are some learnings or tips, or especially when it comes to the kind of visual content, digital commerce, what are some things to maybe take away here?
Yeah, I think it's really a lot of times about breaking down silos. I think sometimes those develop in an organization, and in all organizations, big and small, and for good, bad, or in different reasons. But I think it's really important that you find commonalities and ways to support one another. And I think that's one of the things that we do so well at Ghirardelli is the teams really do help support one another in projects, and we really try to work well cross-functionally and support one another in that way. And I think that makes a big difference. And when I first started, that was one of the things, I really tried very hard to make sure that I really connected with key stakeholders in all the different parts of the organization that I was going to engage in, to really start building that relationship and that communication and support. And I think a lot of it, is just also working with understanding and compassion, and realizing that, my timelines are not necessarily somebody else's timelines. So it's about compromise and support back and forth. And I think that's something we do extremely well as an organization.
Yeah, no, I've seen it firsthand. So we really respect the way you're able to work across these different groups. And one other question we often hear related to this is, for when you're starting out on new visual creative or SEO or mobile, whatever it's going to be, how do you get sort of the awareness and the buy-in? Is it the same process? You just doing that step by step, or what's the approach?
Yes, I think when we launch a new product, we've launched some new baking items. So for instance, there, so really kind of, again, it starts really working from where my work begins, usually with brand marketing and creative, and discussing, when the product's launching. Once we have packaging designs and finalized, talk to my creative team about photo shoots and what are the things we need to include in photo shoots. They're obviously going to do photography for a lot of different needs, not just e-commerce, but there's a lot of different needs for photography and things like that. And then also too, one of the things we've really started to incorporate into our photo shoots, and again, this is, again, building those bridges and cross-functional communication, is really making sure that we're including elements that we could include in a video, things that, maybe in the past we hadn't really thought about before. But what are all the different needs of the various teams? The number of teams needing creative assets for a variety of reasons is definitely probably expanded, I think, a bit over the last several years. So I think internally we're starting to think about those things in a different way, and really thinking about, when we do a creative brief, really making sure that we're hitting all the points, social or e-shop, all different places where creative is going to be used or needed. with marketing copy too. I mean, I think we've worked with an agency. That's of course been a great support. Working with somebody who are experts in the field, and with our brand teams and regulatory as well too, to make sure that we have enticing and interesting and SEO optimized the best that we possibly can marketing copy. So it's kind of a very well-rounded approach, but we kind of do it in parts like that. I think it's how we work.
This insight of really starting from basically when the product is introduced and at the photo shoot, that's a great way of thinking about this. And I think I really like this idea. Then you can put that content to work in all these different ways, but starting early in the process.
Absolutely. Starting as early as we can. Sometimes we're running, but we do the best to start as early as we can. Sometimes things are not quite ready, and we have to kind of wait for certain pieces to be finalized before we can go to the next step. But we have a pretty good system, I think, and be working well. But if we can always do better and do things faster. And I think a lot of the tools that we've incorporated and starting to use over the last year or two have helped us accelerate that as well too, and help us to be more nimble and quick and be able to react to changes. And the retailers are always having changes in their requirements and their needs too, and that's something that we have to think about when we develop our content as well.
And the retailers are always changing the requirements, and we work very closely with many of them, as you know. But we do see a lot of changes, both on the PDP, but also in now retail media and some of these other areas. How are you thinking about that the next couple of years? You've got the top of funnel, you've got retail media, you've got the PDP, you've got social, as you mentioned. How do you prioritize and how do you strategize on these areas?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's a moving target all the time, and I'm responsible for above and below the fold as far as in my area of responsibility. But I work closely with coworkers who retail media or social, and so we do try to obviously share information and help support one another and things like that when we find a retailer's changing their requirements, things like that. But the retailers, sometimes you find out things after they happen, sometimes you'll hear about things ahead of time. And I think a lot of times the partners that we use to support in our content journey, whether it's PIMS or an agency, things like that, a lot of times that's where we'll find out information as well too. So it's really, there's not one perfect way probably to find out the changes that are happening, because they happen so quickly, and that's also part of the challenge. So you have to be ready all the time. Every time I go to send some content out, I'm like, okay, is it ready? Is it going to be ready? Am I going to get the green light to be able to send it off? And I'm always happy when it's there, but sometimes I'll get a little, oops, okay, wait a second, we're missing something here. And then you got to retrench and go, okay, what am I missing here? So it's always kind of like a surprise.
Yeah, keeps you on your toes.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes. I mean, it's never a dull moment, and everything moves so quickly all of the time. And yeah, there's never seems to be a downtime either. Sometimes you feel like in certain industries or business there's peaks and valleys, and I don't feel like that at all. I think that there's always constant movement and change and things like that.
Well, constant movement and change. That brings me to my next question. So, we've got summer with s'mores, we've got back to school, we've got Halloween coming up. What's on the on deck for you or for Ghirardelli looking forward?
Well, I think right now, a lot probably surrounding AI and how we're using AI with our content work. Really looking at images and how we're using them, evaluating images using a tool. Of course, video work with you, and it's rapid there, and really trying to make sure that we have videos for all of our items and for our PDPs to provide to the retailers. And then, of course, looking at marketing copy, continuing to evolve that. So I think as we kind of head into the last part of the year, those are some of the key things. And then I think I mentioned earlier that we have some new guidance on how we're going to be looking at our hero images and really kind of looking at the next evolution, 4.0, 3.0. Not sure which point oh we're on. I think maybe 4.0, about how to change those to make them, definitely very mobile ready, and really making sure that we're getting across to the consumer all the things that they need to quickly pick up on when they're shopping online.
Mobile. That's it. Well, great.
Yes.
Well, before we wrap up, I like to ask a few non-work questions. So,
Okay.
outside of work, hobbies, favorite activities.
Oh gosh. First thing, I love to travel, international travel especially. And, I love spending time with family and friends. And, the last few years have been challenging with the pandemic, but now, we seem to be in a better place. And so looking forward to, more travel coming up, and, just really enjoying the summer and spending time with family and friends. I love to read. And again, just spending time with family and friends, probably most especially. I think sometimes it's just the simpler things, to be honest. And I think if the last few years, if we can find a silver lining out of the craziness that's happened in the world, maybe that's it. It's just the simpler things. I think it's what I truly appreciate most.
So well said. That really, really resonates with me. So, if you had to choose two people, or if you could choose two people who have inspired you the most, or who you've learned from, life, work, in any form of inspiration.
Any form of inspiration. Probably when I think about work, it was probably my manager when I worked for Claiborne years back. She was such an inspiring person, and just I think really taught me a lot about leadership and management, and developing relationships, and how to work with people, your coworkers, whether it's somebody that's reporting to you or somebody who is at the same level as you or somebody above you. And really, that was one of the most important things I think I learned from her. And I think the other person probably would be maybe probably my dad. He's, such a strong person in every way, and just really the heart and soul of our family, and our extended family too. And things like that. I have always looked at him with such admiration and love and everything else. And of course, I'm a little jaded, but he's just such a good, honorable man, and has lived his life with such integrity, and something I would really aspire, hopefully to have a legacy like that.
Wonderful. That's inspiring, and inspiring for me as a dad, certainly, to something to aspire to. So, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Well, Pam, thank you so much again for taking time. Really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard, please visit our website at itsrapid.ai, where you can find out more about creating e-commerce content and digital media at scale. And remember to subscribe to hear more great episodes of Beyond the Shelf. See you next time.